Hello there and welcome to episode 4. This week I've got a very special guest all the way from Ireland this week. He's a fellow colleague working back with each other in 2013 and he's also the founder of the online sensation Coaching the Man. Please welcome my guest this week. It is David Caulfield.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. Do you know what? I always think, why do I say that? Why do I ask people, how are they? Because we answer that question so ingenuously all the time. But yeah, I genuinely mean it. How are you? Are you good?
I actually am. And I know what you're saying with that, because generally when people say, are you okay or how are you? I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. How are you? But to be fair, during this whole lockdown process, I've actually been okay. Like, I've had a couple of rough days, but today's a good day. Like, I'm loving life. It was my birthday yesterday. I'm another year older. So yeah, loving life at the moment.
Happy birthday. I feel
Thank
guilty
you.
I didn't upload a picture or do an Instagram post and say happy birthday, but I've been asked a few times over. Some friends have messaged me going, it's so-and-so's birthday. Will you send me a video? And I've been like, oh my gosh, this is so strange. Just constantly recording videos because you can't actually go and see people for their birthday. So I've lost track. I'm off track with all the birthdays and keeping up with my correspondence.
Well, this year I did a bit of a little social experiment because obviously I'm very bad for it, where I'll wish people happy birthday on social media because it pops up and reminds me. So I did a little trick this year where I took it off my social media profile, so it never actually said it was my birthday.
Right.
Just to see who knew what day it was, because I had a few people message me over the weekend being like, oh, happy birthday. I couldn't remember when it was. I'm like, oh, it's coming up. But to be fair, out of the Facebook friends, I had about 15 text messages, 6 calls, and then a few people posted on Facebook. So all in all, I think people do remember that it was my birthday without it kind of being reminded on Facebook. So I think we fall into that trap of we get so busy with our lives that when it comes to it, we kind of only write for happy birthday because we're reminded that it's their birthday.
Yeah, so, but I'm all thinking you're a naughty little scallywag, because even my best friends, sometimes I think to myself, is it the 11th or the 12th? Is it the 13th or the 14th? So actually it's Facebook that helps me stay on track. So I know it's your birthday, but is it today or tomorrow? Where are we at?
Yeah, but yeah. So we're going to get started. And I like to do a bit of an icebreaker. Now, in the past, I've had, I tried it, but it doesn't really work over the whole Skype FaceTime thing. And I played a game called Send or Delete. And it was basically, I got someone to scroll through their contacts until I told them to say stop. And then they either chose to delete the contact or they'd send a text message. However, we realised it doesn't work over like the screen because obviously we can't really see what's going on. So the icebreaker is going to be, if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be and why?
Okay. I think, tough one. I'm not going to go with the classic fly or be invisible or live forever. I'm going to go with, I'd like to. I remember watching a film a couple of years ago where people could just like transport themselves, like by just going, I don't know, it was like some sort of weird portal where you just transport yourself. And I would like to be able to do that.
Like the film Jumper.
That's the one. Yeah. I'd like to be able to do that because I have so many friends all over the world. And especially right now, I would love to be able to just like, without having to go through all the rigmarole of flying and all of that stuff. I'd like to be able to just go and jump and be in those places really quick. Because, it's when you want to go to New York or when you want to go to London or when you want to go to Dublin or when you want to go to Spain to see people, it would just be so much quicker to go, I'm coming over for dinner. Boom, I'm there. So that would be my superpower.
Do you know, it's actually funny because I've asked this question quite a few times to people over the years and stuff like that, and you are the only person that has given the same film and the same power as what I say every time. Like, that is the one power I would have just so I could teleport as to where and when I wanted. And you're the only other person that's actually ever said the answer.
Yeah. Well, we're obviously very alike, Tom.
Must be, because everyone I speak to either wants flight, invisibility, mind reading power, but nobody actually wants that ability to teleport, which would be great because you could be at home and in 1 minute be like, do you know what? I want to go to a beach somewhere hot and sunny. Boom, I'm there. Or I want to go see my family. Boom, there. Like, it's got so many pros to it. It's unreal.
Especially, like, I mean, I travel a lot between Ireland and the UK, and even when I am working. So it's always really nice. Sometimes, you know, if a friend is like, oh, I'm having a bit of a rough day, I'd be like, okay, I'm on my way. I can't do that if I have to depend on a plane and booking a flight. So it would be nice. But actually, I live very close to the airport back home in Ireland, where I am at the moment. And yesterday during I just took a little break and I was chatting to my friend out the front, and I said to him, should we go up and see the planes? Because I actually genuinely miss the art of flying. Like, I spend a lot of time in airports. So I actually was like, got to the point where I was like, I really do miss planes. I went up and we drove around the perimeter of the airport and saw all the planes just parked up. It's quite sad. It's quite sad in life, and quite sad for all the poor planes that can't fly around the world.
Yeah, because I always see on your social medias, you're always either Snapchatting or putting on your Instagram stories that you're in another airport and you're flying here, there. So obviously for you, this whole lockdown, how are you finding it? Because obviously you've gone from being really busy and doing a lot of traveling to kind of now being sort of in one place with like not a lot to do kind of thing. How are you finding it? Well, first off, where are you? And secondly, how are you finding this whole process?
Okay, so I am in Dublin at the moment, and I've been here since the 12th of March. I came home. I flew home from London to here to do 10 days of some presenting work. And as I arrived on the 12th of March, the announcement for the general lockdown of, you know, services like shops and cafes and bars and pubs and clubs and stuff came. So I was stuck here instantaneously, but I thought to myself, I was like, well, I'm here for the next 10 days anyway, so I'll stay here, and then in 10 days time I'll decide what I want to do, and I can always go back to London and spend my time in lockdown over there, you know, because my housemate was on her own, but then she was still working, so I thought, I don't want to be in your way. So I made the decision that it was irresponsible of me to start traveling for a non-necessity, so I stayed here and shacked up with the parents. They were still working, so I was kind of helping, you know, around the house. And then actually it's been really cool. Like, I've really enjoyed it. I've just treated it like I've moved into a new student accommodation and I'm here, and I was lucky I had my laptop, so I've been able to work, and coping with it has been pretty easy, because, to be honest, you know, at the beginning of this year in January, I spent a lot of time building Coaching the Man and developing the company. And in February, we registered as a business, a limited company. And then, like, the business plan was obviously based on a number of things coming to fruition in March, April, May. And then it would be becoming what I hope would be being quite a positive, an important word there, hoped would be a profitable business. All of this is kind of sidelined that. However, when you're building a coaching business and you're doing a lot of coaching, I do a lot of it remotely anyway. Yeah. So I'm able to adapt to wherever I am. So that's kind of like something I really enjoy about being a coach, is that you can do it from anywhere. And it was one of the most appealing things about setting up my own business, because then again, I am in control. So I have been I've easily adapted to the change, because it is something that I'm quite used to anyway. The traveling bit is obviously difficult, because you take that out because I enjoy doing that. And the other work I do, all the presenting work I do, that's what brings me on my traveling journeys most of the time, because that's a job that I get paid to do. So that's the job that's stopped. That's the job that's no longer allowing me to travel, and that's the job that's no longer paying me. But I still have, you know, all of the coaching stuff, which has been really a good thing for me to be able to focus on. And I've started just like doing whatever I can to make sure that this company is completely robust to be online.
Amazing. Well, obviously you're talking about coaching the man. Now, for those that don't know, if you want to go into a bit more detail of what the coaching the man is, obviously you've got that hashtag Be Mankind movement going on social media. I've taken a picture and passed it on to you, and on your actual social media profile on Instagram, it's actually amazing to see how many people and the stories that they're sharing as well. And like I say, if anyone that wants to, I'll put the link for the Instagram page in the description below. But if you want to give people just an overview of what Coaching the Man is, what inspired you to start it, and just a little bit of background about it.
Yeah, so it's at Coaching the Man on Instagram. I started life coaching about 4 years ago, and then I did like courses and qualifications and all of that, and then a lot of coaching is to do with practice, and then you have to find a niche market that you feel passionate about wanting to help and help direct in the right way. So when I started coaching, I'm very passionate about men's mental health. And the figures for men and suicide really, really upset me, to the point that I just wanted to do whatever I could in order to make men's mental health and mental health awareness in men and talking something more common than it is now, because I think, guys have got a bad rep for not actually speaking out about how they feel. And generally kind of going, I'm the joker of the group, so I don't actually feel like I can be the type of person to turn to someone and say, I'm not really having a good day, or aren't able to actually emote what it is that's going on. And some people really struggle with that emotional expression. And more importantly, some guys actually feel a little bit like they need to provide, and they need to be the man. And that's not always something that everybody fits the mold for. And it doesn't mean that they're not any more manly or any more masculine. It just means that their mold doesn't fit the ideal that they've created in their head. So what Coaching the Man was set up was to kind of help create a life for people, and that they can actually believe is something that makes them happy, something do things that they don't feel they need to, but actually find joy in all of the things that do make them happy. And also just create that portal of support, that there are more than you realize. There are more companies and platforms that are there to talk about the things that you want to talk about, but you don't know who to talk to them about. And coaching is great because it's non-judgmental, it's non-advisory. Like, a life coach will never tell you what to do. They will never judge you on your choices. And you just have to make a promise to show up to the session with a coach, and they will do the best to guide you in the best way they can. So Coaching the Man is that. It's my coaching aimed towards laser focused on men's mental health. Now, I still have women as like my clients, and the Be Mankind workshop that I set up online was for everybody. The hashtag Be Mankind started because it was quite obvious from the pandemic and all of the other buzzwords that you use to describe the coronavirus and the lockdown, that people were struggling with the huge change that was going on in their life. And whereas you have a lot of people who might be very, driven by their career, or they might be, spend a lot of time working, they might have a lot of outlets that they enjoy, whether it's the gym or whether it's spending time with a sports team, or whether it's been able to go to the pub. Maybe that's your only social event that you have in the week, being able to meet your mates at the pub. So all of those huge big changes, both socially and work-wise, were quite obvious, and a lot of people who I'd been speaking to were really struggling. And I kind of realized with the whole "we're all in this together" thing, that actually nowadays it's really important for us not to just be kind, but to be mankind, and it's not just aimed at men. It's about being mankind. So being considerate to everything, to this disease and how strong and how more powerful it is than you will ever be, and be kind in general to other people, be kind to yourself. And I really what I had in my head of what Be Mankind meant was different every time I spoke to somebody about it. So I launched a campaign to try and get people to express what this pandemic and what everything that's going on right now for them, what it actually means, and what them and where their thinking is going most. So are you thinking more about the people on the front line? Are you thinking about the elderly people who are behind closed doors and unable to come out and they're at risk? Are you thinking about the children who are not able to go to school? Are you thinking about everybody that's lost their jobs? What is all of this giving you focus on? Are you focused on one particular thing? Because it matters, and everybody is part of Be Mankind. So that's where the campaign #BeMankind came from. And it was just to try and get everybody to just encourage other people to take note and check in with themselves and check in with what matters to them and where their values are. But also just to express, well, this means to me what this means. So I would like you to respect that.
Yeah. And like I say, I've been following it on social media and Instagram, and I think it's amazing. Like, people are being so open and honest and sending you these stories that you can share on social media. I think, like I said to you, like I've said to you in the past and stuff, like I suffer from mental health, like depression and anxiety. And when I've tried to speak to people in the past about it, they're like, "But you're an entertainer. How can you? How you've got such a great job?" But I don't think a lot of people realise what goes into being an entertainer and the kind of pressures you have, especially like being a presenter in entertainments and stuff like that, and always having to come up with new ideas and content and keep yourself fresh and engaging. And to be fair, I think I didn't actually realise how little I had outside of work, because obviously I always throw myself into work, and now this whole pandemic's kicked off. It's kind of made me realise that apart from work, I don't do anything. Obviously, I see my daughter now and again when I have her. But other than that, like, I've made work my sole focus for like the last 10 years. And I think it's great that it's not great that the pandemic's happened, but for me it is in a sense, because I've had that time to reflect in myself. And I have had down days where I've not got out of bed, I've just switched my phone off, I've not wanted to speak to anybody and just have my own time. I've had days where I've been bursting of energy, I've had all these ideas of what I want to do. The podcast being one of them, like, I thought this is the time now that, because I can't do anything outside of the house and I've had to move back home with my mum, it's great that I've got my laptop at hand. Everything online is either free or like you can get stuff for free and trial stuff and that and see what works. And that's what made me sort of start the podcast. It's a way to still connect with people and get other people's opinions on stuff, finding out how they're getting on with lockdown and isolation and seeing what they're up to as well. And I think once you start to reach out and see, you realise that you're not on your own with that. And I think that's for me, because I get into my own head a lot, and it can be quite a dark place sometimes in my own head, where like I'm getting these negative thoughts where I can't be good and like all this. I then go on social media and sort of see your Be Mankind movement, which is great, and reading some of their stories and the quotes and stuff that you upload as well is great. Seeing people do lives, whether they're singing or they're talking or doing a quiz, it's great to see the community come together and just know you're kind of not on your own and there are people to talk to. I have had people reach out to me as well, being like, are you like actually okay? Like, just checking that you're okay. You're not heard from you, or you've not posted, or you've not chatted in the group for a while. How are you doing, kind of thing, which has also been nice to know that people are actually caring. Like I've seen on social media as well, some people like sharing statuses and stuff, being like, this is the time where you know who your true friends are. For those that reach out. And I'm thinking, well, no, because everyone's got their own thing going on. Everyone's got their own life, and everyone's affected in a different way during this pandemic. Like, a pandemic is time to start testing your friendship with people to see whether they'll communicate with you or reach out to you, because you don't know what's going on in their life at that specific moment during this whole pandemic. So I think I've had kind of mixed emotions on it all, really. And to be fair, I didn't actually realise or think it would be as big as what it was. Obviously, this all started when I was away training in Wales. Obviously, as you know what our training's like. So we were kind of in our own bubble. And obviously, we heard stories about it hitting China and stuff, and then just went back to our parks as normal. And then all of a sudden, like, we're having meetings after meetings, and then it's a case of the companies closing and we're being furloughed and we're having to leave and go and sort of isolate where we can, kind of thing. And it was just, that's when, to me, I was just like, oh yeah, it'll be a couple of weeks, it'll blow over and we'll be back at work. And it's been about 6.5, 7 weeks now, and it's kind of still at its peak and the numbers are still rising. And it's kind of like made me sort of question and sort of think about my future really and where it's going. Which again is why I've started the podcast, because presenting is something I enjoy. This podcast for me is kind of like an experiment to sort of push myself out of my comfort zone and kind of go in a different direction really, rather than just kind of live stage presenting. It's for me getting the experience to be a presenter in a different aspect of stuff and sort of hone my skills more, because it's the time that I can do it. It's the time where I have time to be able to learn and develop and understand and sort of research different ways as well.
Yeah. There's a few things that you said there I just kind of want to touch on, because you said like at the beginning, like you spent a lot of time there with just focusing on entertainment, and the entertainment business, albeit it has so many layers to which you can apply yourself to, so that it's not just a job and it's a vocation, and it's something that, you know, it is okay to spend a lot of your time focusing on because it demands so much of you. But it also proves that, you know, you still need to have the other things that make you. And it seems that you've realized from the exploration that you've done, you've realized that mental health does not it does not pick and choose who it wants. It doesn't discriminate against your job position and how much of an entertaining person you are. It doesn't discriminate against wealth and how rich and how much money you have. It doesn't discriminate against, you know, how, you know, healthy and fit you are. It doesn't. It applies to everybody. How you deal with it is depending on exactly whatever it is that you need to do to create a positive mental health. And it sounds like you've got a very good awareness of when this all happens, that once you're not inside your own head, you're actually able to be an observer of your thoughts, and you're actually able to do the things like turning off your phone and stepping away from things that are actually not making you feel good at the time. I'm always one of these people that, you know, if social media is upsetting you, it's not because it's social media, it's because what you're actually consuming through social media is not actually resonating with you and your true values. So yeah. I would never discourage somebody to stop using social media because it's bad. It's not bad. You're just using it wrong. And if you use it right, and if you have the right people, it's almost like a diet. If you read the right information, if you see the right stuff, and if you see the wrong stuff every day, then you're naturally going to either feel really bad about yourself, or you're going to change the way that you think it is that you need to be. And that's never good, because you have to be uniquely you all of the time.
And that's what I've learned as well, because I've gone through this lockdown period of being, especially on like Facebook and Instagram, it's like I've cleared out my Instagram of like followers that I'm just following for the sake of it, and I've started only following like sort of inspirational accounts, like people that are like uplifting, that are posting positive stuff, and rather than focusing on people that are trying to focus like posting negative stuff, because again, it's not something I need, and it's not something I want to see. I want to be able to be in a community where people uplift and encourage and inspire people to do stuff. So I've spent about a good week going through my Facebook and my Instagram and my Twitter, just clearing out the followers that I don't want to follow anymore. And even that, I've seen an impact.
Yeah, these systems and these, you know, algorithms are very clever. If you start looking at pictures of bananas, it will just give you more pictures of bananas or fruit. It'll just give you all of the same stuff. So it'll just give you more of what you like, what it thinks you like. So actually, if you start looking at, you know, positive affirmations and quotes and inspirational people, it will give you more of that. And it's actually really what you like and what you follow. And you don't need to unfollow your friends or any of that stuff. I think when I set up at Coaching the Man, it was really important to me that I reached out to the people that I thought that I could help or inspired me. And then in turn, that comes back to you, because it's like what you said about your friends earlier on, and how, you know, people will be like, oh, you know who your friends are. Well, actually, it's a two-way street. And if you don't send something up the street to your friend, you won't get anything back. And friendship and relationships, they don't just happen. They take time, they take effort, which is why a lot of people, and I think you'll agree, when you spend so much time with somebody working in an environment where you're seeing them a lot, like on one of the holiday parks that you work on, you will develop a really good relationship. You'll get to know each other so well. You'll be invested in each other's lives. You'll know what makes you feel good and you'll know what makes them feel bad because you've invested your presence in their life, albeit because you're working together. And then when you step away and either of you stop actually reaching out or making that effort, or you begin to make an effort with other people, that's when relationships then change. They don't necessarily end, but they change. And if you really want to make an effort with somebody, and if you really want to be in their life, then it's completely your responsibility. And if you get upset because they're not responding to you, or they didn't send you a happy birthday on your birthday, or they didn't say this, or they didn't text you during the pandemic, then maybe it's not because they didn't, maybe it's because you didn't keep the lines of communication open. So it is really important, like just like social media with friends, what you give to it, you get from it. So
yeah, 100%. And that's how I think. Like, I'm not one of these, like, well, you've not messaged me. I'm very much like, I'll message somebody. If they don't message me, then that's fine. Like, obviously they're busy, and I might send them a message a couple of weeks later to see how they're doing. But it's very much like, it'll get to a point in situations, and it's happened before in the past and stuff, where I've been friends with people I've worked with, I've tried to message them, I get nothing back. So then it's a case of, well, that's fine, I'll cut them ties, because I'm not going to waste all my time trying to communicate if they're not wanting to give back. So I always think it's a two-way street. If you're not wanting to communicate, that's fine. It's like one of my best friends from school, we can go months without speaking to each other, but I'll drop him a text or he'll drop me a text, and it's not even been a day since we've spoken to each other. Like, it's that close knit and that great. Like, I think there was a period of time, about 3 months, where we'd not seen each other, we're not speaking to each other, and I'd gone over to see him one day because I had a day off, and we went out, we had a few drinks and something to eat, but it wasn't a case of, oh, you've not spoken to me for this long. It was a case of, oh, what have you been up to? And we were talking about our lives and stuff. And for me, that's the core thing about friendships, is not being like, well, you've not communicated with me, you've not spoken to me for months, you've ignored me, blah blah blah. It's a case of, oh, so how have you been? What have you been up to? Like, oh, this happened to me the other week, kind of thing. And that's what I value more, is them sort of friendships you can just pick up and you're not having to worry, and there's no pressure on who communicates with who. It's just a case of the conversation will stop, and then when you pick it back up again, it's as if you've never stopped talking. And I think that's very important, especially in this day and age as well.
Yeah, I mean, good relationships are hard to find, or even harder to keep, and it does take a lot of effort. But it shouldn't ever be like it should never feel like hard work to be around your really good friend. It should be easy, and you should be able to talk to them about everything. And you're naturally going to have people in your life that you talk to about different things. Like, you have, a friend who you discuss what's happening on Britain's Got Talent to, but you also have a friend who you discuss your business plans to. You have a friend who you discuss like your woes and your excitements and your love life to, and you have all of these people in your life. And I always say, at any one time, you'll only ever have 5 people in your life that you would and can consider like good friends.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And I think I've learned that, especially over the years of working in entertainment and in this industry. There's been some like friendships, because you work so close together for 9 months, you become like a family. And it's great in that 9 months because you're always together and you're always talking. And it's when you either go off to another location or you do different things. And I found there's people that, to this day, for my first few seasons, I still speak to regularly and still in group chats with people. And then there's other people that I thought I was close to that I'm not so close to now, because they've kind of moved on. And like, you'll communicate with them and they're busy or stuff. And I just find those I've got a real connection with, I just find it's so much easier just to have that relationship with people. And like you say, like, everyone gets busy, but it's just about sort of still remembering who you are kind of thing, and who your friends are. And just, I mean, I find I'm guilty of it as well, where I cannot message people. It's not because I don't want to. I get so busy doing something that I forget. Like, somebody can text me, I'll read the conversation and I'll forget. And it's got that bad that I turn off the red recipient and the ticks on WhatsApp and stuff, because I know if I read it, I get busy and I forget, people can interpret it that differently. And it's same with a text conversation. I could text you a conversation, or text you a reply to something, and you could interpret it that differently to how I was meant to say it.
Yeah, and it's a lot about how people were originally brought up. I think when text messages started years ago, when we were all texting by pressing like the buttons a couple of times, I remember my mum said something quite poignant to me. She said, you should treat that like somebody has sat down, wrote you a letter, went to the post office, got a stamp, put it in a letterbox and delivered it to you. Because if they've asked you a question, they want an answer, and you need to treat it like that. So I've always treated like a message from somebody, regardless of who it is, with the importance of needs a response like from a letter. So I've always treated it like that. Now, not with the same gravitas that you would write down a letter. I don't think we do enough of that nowadays. But I always would give somebody who's asked me a question an answer. I think they deserve that. Equally, there are times when, yes, you can't actually necessarily respond in the moment because we're really bad for picking up our phone and reading a message that comes through straight away, and we're not actually in a position to ignore the people we're in company with to respond to that message. And yeah, it can fall by the wayside. But I am one of these people who will naturally say, for instance, I will think of somebody will come into my head, or I'll think about a time in my life or an event that's happened recently, and I'll think of the people that I was around, and I'll go, I'm just going to message that person and say, oh, I've just been thinking about this. Do you remember that? I was thinking of you. Hope you're well. That doesn't demand a response, but that just shows to the person that I was thinking of them, and I remembered our good times together. And maybe the world and the energies of the world and the universe worked in really weird ways. Because a lot of times when I've just randomly sent that message, somebody will respond and go, oh my God, I was only talking about you last night, or I was talking to you about a friend, or I was thinking about this. And then you realize that actually there was a pull of energy for you to actually share that thought that you had in your head with that person. And I've got to a point now where I just trust that inner voice that tells me what to do. So if I think, oh, I'll message that person, I kind of almost don't ignore myself, and I do it in whatever way I need to, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, or, share a picture that I found of them. I found this and I think of you. And that's how I keep my communication lines open with the colleagues I've met in the years past, and acquaintances, and all of those people that I've shared good times with. So it's, as much as I've got this little pool of people who I speak to weekly, daily, hourly, I have this wide lake of people who I know and have shared experience with. And one day you'll meet them along the road, especially in entertainment. You don't know. One day you might be walking onto a TV set and realize that a person that you worked with on a park is the stage manager, or somebody's a casting director, or somebody's, a producer. And then you're like, oh, wow, and then you want to be able to remember the good times rather than thinking, well, they didn't text me back when I messaged them on the 17th of July, 2017. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think life's too short to worry about grudges and who texts and who doesn't. I think if you want to speak to somebody, you reach out and speak to them at the end of the day. At the end, everyone is busy, and I always believe that if you message somebody, they will always get back to you, whether it's a day later or a couple of days later. And they'll always see that message and be like, oh, I need to reply to that. And it's like you say, I think it's nice just to, I scroll through my Facebook memories and it's like, oh yeah, and I'll message that person being like, oh, with a screenshot of the picture being like, oh, I remember this, and we'll have a good laugh about it, or like a 5-10 minute chat, and then kind of carry on. But yeah, I do think grudges life's too short. No point for grudges. It's too short, especially in this day and age, like the pandemic going on. I think that's opened people's eyes as well a lot. There's more important things
Yeah, no, I hope. I mean, you mentioned like in that industry that you work in and I work in, you do contracts and you do short periods of time with people, and you're used to that change. And what you're used to is jumping from one contract to the other. But what's really difficult is that emotion that comes with ending a period of time where you've been so close to people. And how do you adapt? And how do you create that steady in your life that doesn't matter who it is that you're surrounded by? That you've got something that you can focus on that's just for you. And I think with you setting up the podcast and everything you said of like, oh gosh, when all this stopped, I realized that actually I spent most of my time doing stuff for work, in work, being at work and preparing for work and finding work. And actually now what you've done is actually you've gone like, well, what does Tom like to do? And that's really important as well, because you can't always depend on other people to make you happy. You can't depend on other things to make you happy. And the change that's happened now has really made people realize that actually they have to take their life into their own hands, and it's their responsibility to be happy and to enjoy the things that they enjoy doing. And it's almost like, what would you do if nobody was watching? Like, what would you do if nobody was waiting to see if you'd succeed? Nobody was waiting to see if you'd fail. Nobody was waiting to give you a round of applause. What is it that actually gives you that joy? And that's what you have to find. And that's essentially what a lot of people will be realizing, that they actually like doing jigsaw puzzles, or they like reading, they like coloring, they like actually baking and cooking, and it's so great. And you have so many people now realizing that they have so much more potential than their 9-to-5 job has allowed them to explore.
100%, absolutely. And like you say, it's all about what you want, not on what everyone's perceiving you to be and what you're expected to do. It's what are you passionate about, and what do you want to do, and what do you want to get out of it. And I think once people start realizing that as well in themselves, like it's all about what they want, I think people become happier. Like I say, like since realizing and sort of understanding myself and taking some time to myself, I've started being a bit happier, because like this is something I love to do, and this is what I really want to do. So it is my passion, and it's something I'm truly invested in. And it's this whole time that's given me the sort of opportunity to do this. It's made me happier in myself, because I know I'm not having to worry about, oh, I've got to go to work in 10 minutes, or I've got to do this and I've got to be prepared for this, because it's all shut down. It's allowing me this time to focus and bring my own creativity for myself into what I want to do and my own passion, which is great as well.
And you're a creative person. You're really positive, and well done for doing it, because you've listened to the voice inside you. You've taken the bull by the horns, for want of a better phrase, and you've gone and did it. And it's better done and then never tried. And I think you can only learn and you can only get better by doing it. I don't know like how many of them you've done, how many you've tried. What I do know is that I've tried a podcast. I've done a couple of them, and I know it's not easy. And that's just the recording part. Then you've got to get the listeners, but just keep doing it, because it's amazing and your message will resonate with somebody. The conversations are what people enjoy. So just keep doing it. You should be really proud of yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And to be fair, I think the biggest thing for me was taking the first step, as being like, right, I'm going to do this. And I think what pushed me into it was I'd sort of got it, like the logo and like the concept done, and then I was speaking to someone that I work with, and they'd advertised on Facebook being like, they're doing it on this day, and I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to do it now. Like, and that in a sense it scared me, but it gave me that push to be like, no, I've got to do it now. Like, it's been advertised, like it's giving me that, because I know for that I'd have been like, I'm gonna do it. It got to that day and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Whereas because it was advertised on a day and a time it was going to be up, it was like, I've got to do it. I've got no choice now. This is my push and the shove. And to be fair, it's been great. Sort of like the hardest bit for me is recording, editing, putting it together, and then uploading. But I enjoy it. It's
fear that holds you back. It's always fear that holds you back. That inner fear is just protecting you. And I say it all the time to clients, and on the 5K May that we've got going on at the moment. Is that the only thing inside you is your voice telling you to come back to the comfort zone and not move and don't do anything out of the ordinary, because it's safe there. But, you know, great things happen outside the comfort zone. It's like standing on the edge of a cold lake. You just need to jump in because you know you'll be glad you did at the end of the day. And you'll find out more. And I tell you what, as soon as you do that first jump and the first leap out of the fear and out of the comfort zone, and you face everything and rise, and that's what fear stands for, you will be so glad because you will just constantly chase that feeling. You will meet that fear again, Tom. 100%. You will meet it. You'll meet it maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. Maybe it's uploading. Maybe it's when you get a guest that's like, you know, got an amount of thousands followers that wants to be on your podcast, which I'm sure will happen. You will then go, oh my gosh, I need to step it up. And that's great because fear should fuel you. Fear shouldn't make you turn around and go back. You will no doubt make a success of it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm hoping so. Here's hoping.
Have a deeper why. Like, it's all about why. And when you, like I said earlier on, what do you want to do when nobody's watching, when nobody's expecting anything of you? Because it really means something deep down within you. What does your heart desire? As long as you've got a real deep reason why you're doing something, whether it's this podcast or whether it's something else in your life, you will be always drawn to it. And you will always feel like you want to face your fears because there's a deep reason why you do it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to chat with you. Like I said, it's going to be on YouTube at Friday at 5 o'clock. I'll put all your links in for your social medias as well in the description, so anybody that's checking it out can also find you on Instagram as well. But once again, David, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Tom.